What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Ride the Pine. I am Sean Sproat. Apologize, we have been off for a few weeks. We basically missed the entire month of October, a little part of November, but we are back. I think I speak for the guys before we introduce them here that we are excited to be back, especially because it's a day after Election Day at the time of recording. So we are going to be a little reprieve from the bullcrap for you, hopefully. Whether you are celebratory scrolling or doom scrolling, hopefully you can stick around for the next hour with us and try to ignore all that while we talk some sports and anything else that comes up. So let's get the guys introduced here. First up, he just set the record for the most consecutive months subscribed to the Hallmark Plus channel. It's Adam Freeman.
I love listening to these and not knowing which one of us it's going to be first.
And next up, Kenny Hudden sent a picture to the group message saying that he has his Christmas tree up, but we're pretty certain that it's been up for the entire year. Kenny, how's it going?
No, it's just one new one, and it was purchased today. I have, hold on, 1, 2, 3. We have 5 Christmas trees in our house.
Nailed it.
We do have a lot to get to. We've crowned like a World Series champion. MLS playoffs are going on. One team in the NHL is running away with it. But I have to ask this question now that we brought this up. How soon is too soon to put up a Christmas tree? Because it's November 6th at the time of recording. That feels too soon to me.
Kenny?
Well, okay. So in my defense, in our previous life, Jess worked at Target. So her holiday schedule would have started by now. So we were always putting the tree up early. Like it was usually the first weekend in November, maybe the second. And it's just one right now, guys. I still got 4 more trees to go, and they will probably all go up in the next weekend or so. So, yeah.
Did you hear that humble brag about how many trees he has? How many rooms is your house? 38? I mean, Jesus.
I can attest it is 36.
Oh, thanks.
Who wants to start us off for the best thing you saw this
Adam
week?
Also
have anything?
Adam also complimented my calves today, so
that's true.
You do have fantastic calves, I will say.
I'll start. The best thing I saw this week is Adam complimenting Kenny's calves.
You haven't seen his calves. He doesn't even do calf races.
I've seen the man's calves. It's just been a long time. They couldn't.
Not when you got genetics like these boys.
Yeah, that's true. You don't need to. Natural calf raises when he walks.
I'm gonna send a picture of my calves over to Sean.
Yeah, we're gonna post them all on
now.
We're gonna post them all on the social media.
I will say, if my legs weren't super hairy, I probably would compete with you as far as calves.
There's no way.
No, I tell you what, this is going to sound really weird. When I got my tattoo and I had to shave my leg, I didn't like the fact that I had part of my leg shaved, so I did shave both of my legs at that point. And I have fantastic legs, guys. Not going to lie.
You shaved both of your legs to get one tattoo on one leg?
It was,
and also, they shave the area when you get the tattoo. As a man who has a lot of tattoos, they shave the area for you.
Oh, I'm aware. I found that out when I went. It was the first time. Never did it before. But yeah, it was an experience. I also did not cut my ankles. So there's that.
Ask him about the tattoo mistake.
I don't have a mistake.
Is it yours that like the ribbon isn't closed or something like that?
Oh no, it's closed. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Double check.
Well, you don't see it every day.
No, I don't look at my calves that much.
You haven't shaved those calves in a while. I can't see the tattoo anymore.
It's been a while. It's kind of shaded.
Best thing we saw.
I'll go first. I think that it's been a while. I think that the tribute that the NHL did to the Goudreaus across the league is one of the best things that I have seen in a long, long time. Like it wasn't just Calgary, it wasn't just Columbus, but it was the entire league that did something. And then Columbus and Calgary obviously went over the top with everything that they did. It was one of the coolest tributes that I've seen in sports for a while. That's for sure.
We talked about that. We felt like they needed to do that too.
Yeah.
So that was very, very cool to see. I agree. Kenny?
Yeah, it was a great tribute. I don't know, man. I really got nothing. You know what I will say? I'll say this. The good news that the Blues got this morning about Dylan Holloway, who took the puck to the neck. I don't know if everybody saw it. It looked almost. I don't want to say innocent because I think the videos I saw were all slowed down. But you're like, holy shit! And then the kid's getting his neck held up because he can't control his body functions, like. And to hear that there's nothing wrong with him is probably selfishly the best news I've seen in a while.
Can we real quick go to the quote that he had today when being interviewed? That is an all-time hockey quote, tweeted by Jeremy Rutherford of the Post-Dispatch, or technically I think he's the Athletic now, whatever it is.
Athletic.
I don't subscribe to the Athletic, so I couldn't tell you.
Boo.
The tweet reads, "This quote from Holloway needs to be on a T-shirt," and I quote, "As soon as I got hit, I knew something was a little off, but then I saw we had a 2-on-1, and I couldn't pass up that opportunity." End quote. That is an all-time hockey quote.
He went on to say more. He said that he does not remember coming back to the bench, and he does not remember anything until he woke up, basically on a stretcher on the ambulance, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, but I think I'll be able to play Thursday."
Yeah,
hell yeah.
UBI day to day.
Yeah, and I mean, what a scary moment though. Like his parents were in town. This is the first time they've seen him play for the Blues, I believe. And your son goes down and like gets stretchered off. What a scary moment. So I'm just, the Blues have had a couple scary moments on the bench. Obviously, Chris Pronger's heart attack or whatever you want to call that, Jay Bouwmeester's episode.
Mm-hmm.
So just thankful that this one didn't end up like, at least the one in modern history of Jay Bouwmeester, who never played again.
Yeah, agreed. Best thing I saw this week, besides Kenny's Cavs, is definitely I don't think we're going to talk about them much, but MLS playoffs has been going on, and they've been really, really good. The fact that Messi and friends might get knocked out by Atlanta in a couple days is just crazy in the first round. So that's the best thing that I've seen. I'm really enjoying MLS playoffs so far. So cool. Where do we want to start?
I saw a tweet about the playoffs. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think I'm delayed a little bit.
You are delayed.
It said it's the year 2046. It's the year 2046. The 2024 MLS playoffs are still ongoing.
Yeah. Whenever the LA Galaxy won their first two games, they move on to the next round. They do not play another game for 22 days. And their star, Ricky Pooch, tweeted about it and was like, "Come on, MLS. Basically, like, get your shit together. 22 days off is dumb." That's basically the off season for all the FIFA leagues now.
I'm pretty sure that the NHL off season is shorter than that.
Probably pretty close.
Definitely possible.
Yeah, if you win the Stanley Cup, it's like 34 days or something ridiculous.
Right.
Turn around and you're in camp.
Yeah. Do you guys want to start with the NHL now that we mentioned it?
Yeah, that's fine with me. So we're about, let's call it an average about 12 to 13 games into the season so far. The team that we all thought would absolutely run away with the Central Division and the Western Conference is doing it. And let's just face it, they're pretty much running away with the NHL right now. The Winnipeg Jets, of all teams, are 12-1-0 in their first 13 games, with a massive 32 goal differential, plus 32 goal differential. Absolutely insane. They're averaging just under, I believe, 4 goals a game, 4.5 goals a game, which is pretty crazy. You had crazy stories with like McDavid being out for a little bit of a stretch there, kind of hurt the Oilers. The Sharks are who we thought they were and are absolutely terrible. Thank God the Blues didn't lose to them. That would have been terrible. I think the Sharks have owned the Blues for the past 2 years, even though they've sucked.
since 2019.
Yeah, it's been rough. But other than that, I mean, everybody else seems to be right in line. Panthers are leading the Atlantic with the Maple Leafs right behind, the Lightning right behind them. The Hurricanes and Capitals, along with the Devils, are leading the Metro. And then you've got obviously the Jets, the Wild, and Stars in the Central, and then the Kings, obviously, of all teams. We all picked them, right, to go out and win the Pacific Division. They're starting out hot too. So I mean, it's still early. And usually, when at least for me, I don't start really judging hockey until the Blues won the Cup when they were terrible in end of December, something like
January,
that. So,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, really, until the year turns, that's when you really want to figure it out. It will be about a quarter of the way through the season, in my opinion. But so far, it's been a pretty entertaining season. I'll say one of the better starts, that's for sure, just because there's a lot of teams kind of still in the mix. You don't have that one team or two teams that are just kind of way out of it.
Yeah, I do want to briefly highlight the Winnipeg Jets, though, because just like you mentioned, how they're running away with it. I mean, you mentioned some of the stats. They're 12-1, 32 goal differential. They were 9-1 in their last 10. They've won 4 in a row. They have yet to lose away from Winnipeg. They're 6-0 on the road. And then Connor Hellebuck is having the start of the season to end all other seasons, basically. He has 9 wins, 1 loss. He has a save percentage of .923 with a goals against average of 2.10. 2 shutouts along with that as well. That's impressive. Are we talking about now? We know he folds typically in the playoffs, but are we talking about a potential MVP season for a goalie if he continues that up?
I'm not ready to discuss that 13 games into the season. I really, truly am not.
Well, then you're really
like
gonna
you
like
said,
this next
he
question.
tends to. Okay, he tends to fold. But what the Jets are doing is very impressive. I was very impressed watching them play the Blues. I haven't actually got to sit down and watch a lot of hockey yet, but I've been very impressed with what I have seen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I said, you're gonna love this next question because are they gonna break the Canadian curse? 31 years, I believe, without a Stanley Cup. Last time was 1993.
So since 1993, the Montreal Canadiens won in 1993. No Canadian team has won since.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if they keep this pace, they have a shot. And the NHL playoffs is the biggest crapshoot in all of professional sports when it comes to the playoffs, because the game changes so much. So yeah, I mean, they've got a shot, but theoretically, so do the Montreal Canadiens currently, but that ain't gonna happen.
I don't know if the Jets do. I mean, they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. Like they're deep. They play that physical style of hockey that definitely trends better for playoff teams. But they're just off to a super hot start. The Knights, they have 54 goals. I mean, they have 17 points. They're 8-3-1 right now. And let's face it, they have the craziest salary cap rules in the league. And they probably are going to get some sort of superstar at the trade deadline because they can afford it because of long-term IR.
Yes.
I wouldn't rule the Panthers out again at all. I think the Panthers are a solid hockey club, even with some changes that they've had on the roster. I would say the Leafs, but that's just not going to happen. I think that like Kenny put it perfectly, the NHL playoffs are so crazy that it's really hard to pick a true winner that comes out of it. Yeah, right now they're trending towards being the best team, but all of these teams like the Canes, the Capitals, the Devils, I would throw the Rangers into that mix. That Metro division is an absolute beast.
For sure.
Panthers, Leafs, Lightning, Bruins. That top 4 of the Atlantic is a beast. The Central, once the Avalanche kick back in and they get healthy, they're going to be right up there with everything. And then you have the Stars, the Wild, the Jets, and let's not rule out Utah, who's had a pretty, let's say, a better start than they normally would compared to what they would have in Arizona. It's going to be a tough sled for
I'm ruling
one.
Utah.
I'm ruling out Utah. Yeah.
I won't rule them. I don't say they're gonna win a cup, but
They're not a playoff team.
man, they might be. You get an owner that wants to put money into it. All they got to do is stay in that middle of the middle of the pack right now. That's all they got to do. And right now they're 1 point out of a playoff spot.
Yeah.
That's it. So
They're 5-5-3.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily say that the Jets will break the curse. I think they're trending that direction, but there's still a lot of hockey to be played. You could have Hellebuck could go down with an injury tomorrow, and their season changes on a dime. So
For sure. Yeah. Any other shout outs? Any other surprises throughout the league before we move on?
I mean, with as much money as the Predators spent, for them to only be 4-8 is 4-8-1, excuse me, is a little shocking. I mean, nothing really jumps off the page as I look at the standings. I think Martin Necas in Carolina, people are going to finally wake up to that young man. He is a great hockey player. I really am disappointed the Blues were not able to pull off that trade for him a couple of years back. So
I think the other thing I would add too is, and kind of keeping on the home field, and as well as talking about Holloway again, the two moves that Army pulled off for the Blues to get Broberg and get Holloway, and both of those guys paying off instantly. I mean, you're talking about probably, I think I would probably label it as the ballsiest move in free agency, or not even free agency, just in an acquisition of a player, where you go out and you make an offer to two restricted free agents on the exact same team at a price point that is, I don't want to say at value, probably a little bit below value for both of them. I think it'll pay off in the long run. But you knew Edmonton wasn't going to pay both of those guys. And Edmonton knew it. And everybody in the league, as soon as those two offers were made, knew that it wasn't going to go down and that the Blues were going to get two guys from the Oilers. And they gave up very minimal in draft compensation. But I think they're both third-round picks. So for a guy that is, Broberg was the 8th overall pick, wasn't he? And Holloway was – what was Holloway? I forgot what Holloway was. But you get two guys that are under the age of
mid-teens, maybe.
That sounds right, yeah. Two guys under the age of 25 that come in and make instant impacts for your club. I mean, that's an incredible play right there.
Yeah, agreed, for sure. Where do we want to move on to next?
Let's go to the World Series, and I don't think they're going to spend a lot of time on it. Really, I just want to bring this up because of one particular point. But the Dodgers go on to win the World Series 4-1. They beat the New York Yankees, and in reality, the one game is just kind of a fluke. The Yankees won 11-4. The Dodgers won the World Series kind of like we all thought they would at the beginning of the season. They have the roster to do it. They paid for the roster to do it. Yeah, Ohtani wasn't going to pitch all year, but when you go out and you have a 50-50 season for the first time ever in history, the only thing that people are really wondering about is, would the Yankees lineup be able to compete? What everybody didn't really realize, and the point that I would love to make, is that the Dodgers wanted to play the Yankees because the Dodgers knew that they could take advantage of the Yankees' terrible fielding with everything that they did. They could run on them. They could take the extra bag. They knew they would get random situations that would pop up. And they did. I think Denny Green put it perfectly. They are who they thought they were, except they weren't angry about it. And the Dodgers, the Dodgers took advantage of it. How many times do you see them taking the extra bag, stealing the base? I think it was game 5 that they stole like 3 bags in a row because of using the throw-over rule to their advantage, knowing that they couldn't do more than 2 throw-overs, and with the pitch clock, they could just take off. It was basically like going on first move, and they got 2 stolen bases off of it, or 3, I think it was, in like a span of a couple innings. So I think, honestly, when it comes to like scouting, even though they had the team that everybody thought was going to win the World Series, when it comes to being able to run a scouting report like that and then being able to have it come true is pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone's going to focus in on the 3 errors in the 1 inning, and I think that's just a microcosm of
Oh yeah.
the Yankees baseball in general. I think you nail on head right there. I think you nailed it.
I mean, it almost reminded me of the Cardinals in '06 against the Tigers. They knew that the Tigers were not that great at fielding, and they took every advantage of it they possibly could. And it was entertaining to watch. And honestly, it was kind of that way. And it was cool. I'm not a huge fan of the big market versus big market when it comes to baseball. I do like having the little guy in there every now and then. Uh, but it was cool to see Dodgers Yankees. I think the MLB actually did a decent job, other than Fat Joe doing the pregame at the Yankees. Oh my God, that was terrible. But I think they did a pretty good job with the presentation. I think they did not put Bob Costas on the call, which was great. It was a little weird having a Dodgers homer as the play-by-play for their Fox call, but I think overall MLB did it right, and they probably got the better situation with the Dodgers winning the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, it was a Major League Baseball wet dream to have their two biggest markets play in the World Series. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and arguably their biggest star too. I mean, Shohei Ohtani is the biggest star in baseball. So,
well, I mean, you have in that series, I forget what the official number was, but I think it's 7 MVP, no, 6 MVPs on both rosters, I think is what it was. You have the biggest names in the sport: Judge, Soto, Stanton, Betts, Freddie Freeman, Ohtani, Yamamoto. I mean, you have the draw on game
Tommy
one
Edman.
was insane. Tommy Edman, right? Yeah. Jack Flaherty. I mean, Jesus, he pitched in 2 games.
Shout out to me at the beginning of our podcast whenever I said Jack Flaherty would eventually be a Dodger, and both of you looked at me like I was crazy.
I don't think I looked at you like I was crazy.
You did. You said that was not going to happen.
You're making shit up.
Nope. I will pull it. I will
show me the tape.
You got it.
The only thing I didn't appreciate about the World Series, because yes, you're right, both historic franchises. It was great for MLB as far as ratings go. What I didn't like was the aftermath of. I don't know if you guys heard. Colin Cowherd was like, you know where Juan Soto should go? The Dodgers. The baseball hasn't had a dynasty in forever. It's like, come on, man. Yeah. Like
that very well may happen too. That's the thing.
He's not going to. I would be absolutely floored if he goes to the Dodgers. Like that is.
I think he's going to Queens.
That's what I'm kind of leaning towards as well.
Kind of leads me into my next question then is, do either of these rosters have like a quote unquote major shakeup in the offseason?
I mean, if Arenado gets traded to the Dodgers, yeah. I'm throwing this out there. Every projection has said Arenado will not be on the Cardinals next year. So
yeah,
he's a Southern California guy. So
I think the Yankees have the most turnover. You've got Gleyber Torres is a free agent. You have Soto as a free agent. I think they have one other guy that was a free agent. It might have been a pitcher, but the Dodgers don't have a whole lot of turnover when it comes to their roster. They're just going to add.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of addition. I mean, as much crap as we gave Flaherty for when he was here, he's a damn good pitcher. I mean, he's in the spot that he wants to be in. That's a good addition for them. Tommy Edman is a great addition for them as well. Yeah, so I mean overall,
I think we could all sit here and say Jack Flaherty's issue was never his arm. It was between his ears.
100%. Yeah, he didn't want to be in St. Louis.
Yeah, but I also think St. Louis fans gave him a lot more crap than he deserved, specifically for that reason, for the stuff that came out of his mouth. And I just don't. Yeah. I think during the height of COVID and during everything that was going around that time, I don't think we appreciated him enough as a pitcher.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's always a whipping boy on every team,
for sure,
right? Like.
And we, as St. Louis sports fans, we know that it's typically a starting pitcher, a manager, or a goalie in whatever the prospective sport is. That's who we pick on as St. Louis sports fans.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah. Next.
All right, let's go to the NFL. So we are entering week 10. The trade deadline just passed earlier this week. I think it was 17 total trades is what I saw. Some of the trades are absolutely hilarious. like the Cowboys trading for Mike Williams, or a pick that is higher than what the Chiefs paid for DeAndre Hopkins. That is just a shit show. But as far as
I think Dak said it best on the sideline.
Yeah.
yeah, he definitely did. Yeah, the cameras are always watching Dak. You can't get away with that shit. So as far as standings, the Bills lead the AFC.
Yeah.
The Bills lead the East. The Chiefs lead all of NFL. They're 8-0, and probably the toughest 8-0 I've ever seen, or I don't want to say toughest, the most criticized 8-0 I've ever seen. Steelers are leading the AFC North just by percentage points. They're 6-2. The Ravens are 6-3. The Texans are pretty much going to run away with the South unless something absolutely drastic changes. They're 6-3 right now. And then in the NFC East, Washington, right where we all expected them at the top, 7-2 with
Crazy.
the Eagles. And then really those two teams are running away with the East. Another team that we thought would win the NFC West, the LA Rams. They're in second place to the Arizona Cardinals. Yep, that's right. I called that one. You can pull the tape. I don't need the piece of paper that showed me on that one. And then NFC North, you got the Lions. That division is that's going to be a fun division to watch coming down the stretch. And then the South, the Falcons, they're 6-3. So a few surprise teams in there, but overall, I think everybody's kind of where we thought they were going to be.
As far as the AFC, yeah. I mean,
NFC is a little bit of a crapshoot.
Yeah, I think we all, if we had looked in the future and said that the Kansas City Chiefs are 8-0, I think we all would have believed that. Texans in first, Steelers in first, with the tied close to the Ravens. That all makes sense. The NFC is a little wild. The Commanders sitting at 7-2 and not just being like scraping by. They're winning dominant football games. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and they're putting up points. They have I think they have the most points scored in the league so far this year.
Yeah, that's incredible.
No.
Are you sure?
The Ravens have 283. The Chiefs have 203. And the Steelers are at 187. The Texans have 201.
The Commanders have 263. So they're in second.
Yeah, we got some higher scoring teams. But what I will say, and I will give you credit on the point, is for what the Steelers did last year and didn't have a wide receiver who had a fucking touchdown until like week 11.
That's true.
They are a much better offense than they have.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah. I was a little salty on that one.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Any in like teams in the dumpster, teams near the bottom that we're surprised about? I'll shout out the Saints. I thought the Saints were going to be a lot better than 2-7. That's awful.
Yeah, that one I don't think shocks me that they're not good, but I wouldn't have expected them to lose 7 in a row. That's just terrible. I think that they have a culture issue, I think, more than anything. I don't think it's necessarily a team issue. Carr he's an average quarterback. I loved Mike Thomas going out and just absolutely blasting Derek Carr or David Carr. I always get mixed up which one that is. But blasting him because he got Chris Olave absolutely killed on a freaking pass. It was a terrible decision. I don't know. I mean, I would say
the Vikings are surprising. Sorry, I don't mean to interject, but
that's probably the one I was.
Nobody thought Sam Darnold was going to be good.
Yeah,
and they're 6-2, and by all stretch of the imagination, they are right now a playoff contender.
Right.
Shout out to the NFC West for having all 4 teams having a negative point spread.
They do.
Sorry, Kenny, go ahead.
Oh, well, the 49ers don't, but it is still shocking that they are 4-4. Like, I get it, McCaffrey's hurt, but like, still, that team is built to be better, and they are just not. I mean, nothing in the NFC really, obviously, besides the Saints, jumps off the page. Maybe you could say the Falcons.
The Falcons is a good one.
Yeah,
that division is being a lot more competitive than we thought. Like, I would have at the start of the season never given Tampa Bay the thought of hanging with the Chiefs. They did on Monday night. Now, you could say the Chiefs didn't put them away, which would be fair, but Tampa Bay marched down the field and tied that game up with no time remaining. That was an impressive drive by Baker touchdown maker. So
yeah, I don't understand the hate for the Chiefs being 8-0. It amazes me how many people you hear talk about, well, they're not the best team in the league. Man, they're 8-0. What do you want me to say? Like, yeah, maybe it hasn't been pretty, but why does it have to be pretty to be the best team in the league?
Because at some point when you just consistently win, that's the only thing that people can nitpick on is how you win. That's it. We did it to the Patriots. Now we're doing it to the Chiefs.
That's true.
That's it.
But I don't think that it truly in the end matters. I mean, they beat the Ravens
doesn't.
by 7. They beat the Bengals by 1, which everybody's like, oh yeah, they beat the Bengals by 1, but they had absolute zebra help on that one. I don't fucking care. It is what it is. I mean, it's the NFL. Like, you look at spreads every week, and the spreads are always within 4 or 5 points, somewhere right in there. So if you have a problem with the Chiefs winning by 4 or 5 points, that's what happens. That's how the NFL works, and I don't get it. I think the addition of DeAndre Hopkins changes that offense tremendously. It showed it on Monday night. Somehow the Taylor Swift magic healed Mahomes' Achilles mid-play, which was absolutely incredible to watch. But them getting Hopkins and finally getting him into that offense changes that offense completely. And their defense is solid.
And the defense is solid. They just picked up another edge rusher. Forgive me forgetting what his name is. But we're gonna know when Cameron watches this episode or listens. I don't see a loss on the Chiefs schedule right now. Outside of the stretch of December 21st when they play the Texans and then turn right around and play Christmas Day, play the Steelers.
Oh my God. 4 days? Jesus.
I don't see a loss.
All right, so here, let's go through it. This week, they have the Broncos at Arrowhead. That's a win.
That's a win.
They go to Orchard. Was it over? What the hell? They go to Buffalo.
You could have just said Buffalo.
I was trying to figure out what the city was, and so they would go to Buffalo. That's going to be a tough one. That if I see a loss, that's that game. They go to Carolina. They have the Panthers. They beat them. They have the Raiders back at home. They win that game. The Chargers at home might be interesting. So the only reason I say that is who was it on early morning this morning? Was it Chris Canty maybe on ESPN radio that he had said that whoever it was said that when you think of the coaches that could scheme against Andy Reid to beat Andy Reid in a one-game matchup, because that's all the NFL is when they get to the playoffs. You have Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, and Mike Tomlin. Jim Harbaugh is Chargers. Chargers roster is terrible. Like it's not a good team, but that would be the one guy that could find a way to scheme against Andy Reid. So I'll still give them the win. Then they have the Rapists and the Browns, and they go to Cleveland. They win that game. Actually, no, Famous Jameis leads that team now, so they have a little bit less of a chance. And then the Texans, Kenny is right. Texans and Steelers back to back is going to be interesting.
I could see two losses. I could see at Buffalo, and I could see it at home against Houston.
I don't think it's the at home against Houston. I think it's the on the road at Pittsburgh on Christmas Day.
No.
Kenny?
I mean, weather will obviously be a factor in Pittsburgh. There is something with Mahomes, and this is all barring like a catastrophic injury for Mahomes, because I don't think Carson Wentz is obviously the answer for the Chiefs. But Mahomes has Josh Allen's number. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe he made a deal with the devil. But he's got Josh Allen's number. And more times than not, the Chiefs have beat the Bills, right? Like, in reality, the only kryptonite of the AFC that has proven that they can beat the Chiefs when it matters the most is the Bengals.
Yeah.
And I don't even see the Bengals potentially making the playoffs. Like, that team is in a disarray.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe there's some recency bias in me thinking that the Chiefs are going to beat the Bills. It's in prime time. You never know with those games. But again, that 4-day stretch is the swing for me, right? Like football is a very violent game, and turning around that quick to play a game at that high of a level, because the not the Chiefs, the Steelers, excuse me, will be probably fighting for a playoff spot. So, I mean, you could theoretically see where the Chiefs already have the division locked up, and they might ease off the gas. So,
well, and I think the other interesting part of that is that they play the Texans on the 21st, which is a Saturday, which is typically a walkthrough day, maybe a travel day. Most teams are probably already in town. The Chiefs are at home. It's probably a walkthrough day. They play the Steelers 4 days later on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL generally gives teams off on Tuesdays. I think it's actually mandatory that teams do not play on Tuesdays. Both of those teams are going to have weird schedules. That game that's a coin toss. There better not be a massive spread because of what planning goes into that, the travel that they're going to have to do. Let's not rule out the fact that it's Christmas. So you're going to have the Chiefs traveling to Pittsburgh on probably Christmas Eve to play a noon game on Christmas Day, and then they're going to travel back home. Like that's a crapshoot game. The Texans are going to be okay. I think the Chiefs can win that game in Arrowhead. I think that the Steeler game on Christmas Day is the question.
Okay, so I just looked this up because I was curious. First of all, fuck the NFL for playing on the 21st when that is going to be, I believe, the first round of the college football playoff. Also, the Steelers play the Ravens on the 21st.
So they have the same schedule.
I mean, they are talk about two tough matchups for the Steelers back to back. I mean, the highest scoring team in the league and then the best team in the league.
And fighting for a playoff spot, I'm sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Is that game in Baltimore?
Yes.
Which for all of our European listeners to travel from Baltimore to Pittsburgh is not that far.
Baltimore to Pittsburgh is what they're used to.
Yeah.
Now, Kansas City to Pittsburgh, totally different.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we have?
It's not like the one time I flew to Pittsburgh and you got to fly to Carolina first. So
Southwest. The last thing that we'll talk about today is Kenny mentioned it briefly. The college football playoff rankings. The first ranking came out just the other day. It was on the election day. It was really the poll that I wanted to see more than anything. So the rankings came out. Oregon, of course, number 1 at 9-0. You have Ohio State at number 2. They're 7-1. Georgia 7-1. 3. Miami is 9-0. They're 4th. Then you have Texas, Penn State 5-6. Tennessee, Indiana 9-0 at number 8. BYU is 8-0 at number 9, and then Notre Dame, Alabama, and Boise State rounded out the top 12. First team out technically is SMU at 13. A&M was 14. LSU at 15. And you got a bunch of other stuff. What was the one what stood out the most for you guys on that one?
Looking at it, I would say probably Notre Dame seems like a head scratcher to me at 10. I don't know who they've really played other than A&M. Boise State's a damn good football team. I'm really surprised they're not ranked a little bit higher. I don't see them getting higher than like an 8 position. But for what it's worth, it's Ashton, isn't it? Genty.
Yeah.
He's your Heisman winner.
Yep.
I don't care what any media member says. It's not Travis Hunter. Just being good at 2 positions doesn't mean anything. It's the player that excels the most, and that kid is the Heisman.
I think the running back out of Iowa might have something to say. He's got just as many yards, just as many touchdowns, but he has 1 extra game played so far this year. So that's the only thing that
you said out of Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see them in the top 25.
I don't care where they're at. It's the best player in the country. I don't care.
I mean, I don't.
I know.
Whatever. Tomato. Couple things that I do find glaring. Old Miss at 16, like Old Miss has done everything that people have bitched about Mizzou has done. And that's beat up on bad teams and not play up to their level against the good competition. But I think Ole Miss is going to take care of themselves. I believe they still have to play Alabama and I think Georgia as well, right?
Yeah, they play Georgia this week.
Okay, yeah, that's going to take care of itself in there. Colorado at 20, like, come on, guys. I get it. Deion's the story, but they haven't done anything that's impressive to me. Right now they're outpacing what I thought they would be at, but 6 and 6 is still in play. But other than that, I mean, I don't really have a problem with any of the rankings. I mean, you could nitpick little things, right? Like, maybe Miami should actually be 6 because they should have 2 losses. But flip Georgia and Ohio State. I mean, it doesn't. I'm not really nitpicking anything right now, or I'm just nitpicking. Excuse me.
Yeah, I don't see much. I pulled up Notre Dame's schedule because I was curious why they're at 10, but they do have 3 wins against ranked opponents. Nothing is really jumping out at me that is like egregious. Typically, there's one every single year that we all yell about, but.
So I got this. I got a few. One of my first one was Ole Miss. I said that in a different text thread with Kenny. I'm not saying that Mizzou should be ranked higher than
Neither am I.
than 24. I'm actually I was shocked that they were in the top 25. But to be able to say that Ole Miss is 8 spots ahead of Missouri for the exact same season, actually, and I would argue is slightly worse. At least Mizzou's 2 losses were to Texas A&M, who's at 14, and Alabama, who is at 11. Ole Miss lost to Kentucky at home against Kentucky. So, yeah, I don't care. Your 2 losses are worse than Mizzou's 2 losses, and you haven't beat anybody other than Arkansas. Cool. Congratulations. We're going to beat Arkansas, too. The other thing that I found interesting is how they have to rank the seeds. So Oregon obviously is number 1, Georgia 2, and then
that's why it's the way it is.
Miami is 3. BYU is 9, but they are ranked as number 4 in the bracket because they have them as the 4th best league champion or conference champion, ahead of Ohio State or Indiana, which I found was very interesting. And those 2 teams still would have to play each other. So that to me is interesting because if BYU wins out, they're undefeated and they're going to have a bye week going into the college football playoff, which is absolutely awesome for the Storm and Mormons. But who would they end up playing? Boise State right now is at 12. They're going to play the 5-12 matchup. I would not want to play Boise State. And guess what? The 5 is going to be an away. It might be an away team, might be a conference champion. Sorry, I got sidetracked because of how they are labeling them. They don't label them right. But I don't know. I mean, I think that it's not terrible. I don't think they got it right, and I'm concerned with how it goes moving forward. But like Kenny said, a lot of these teams are going to take care of themselves. Truthfully, at Mizzou being at 24, if Mizzou wins out, I still think they have a chance. I don't care what the whole season's been before. If Mizzou wins out and they're a 2-loss team, they still have a shot.
I think that is dependent on some other matchups falling their way as well. But I wouldn't worry too much about Ole Miss, by the way. They have Georgia on November 9th. I think that problem's going to solve itself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think Alabama and LSU play this weekend, so one of those teams will officially be out of it after that with 3 losses. Let's see. I think Tennessee, still has Georgia as well. I'm pretty sure. And then Texas still has Texas A&M. I forget. Tennessee still has somebody coming up. I forget what their schedule is. But like all the big SEC teams still play each other.
I think it is. I think it is Georgia because I was like, no, they play Alabama, but they beat Alabama. So
yeah.
Tennessee has Mississippi State, and then at Georgia, UTEP, and then at Vanderbilt to close the season.
Vandy could ruin their dreams. That'd be fantastic.
That could legitimately happen this year.
That would be a fantastic game to watch.
Yeah.
And then the last one that I had that I thought was kind of crazy with their rankings is SMU at 13. An ACC team at 13. They're I don't I don't see them being the best team. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they barely got by Duke. They did beat the
look at their schedule.
They did beat the pants off Pittsburgh, who was ranked at the time.
Where are they now?
Okay.
But one of the things about college football that I actually disagree with, but I'm gonna bring up this point though, is if a team loses their rank, it's not a ranked win anymore.
Right.
Again, I fundamentally disagree with it, but it is the world we live in. Like Florida State was a top 10 win for whoever, but now it's not considered ranked. So that win, right? There's a lot of shaking out to come here. And Gabe from Power Mizzou, now on 24/7 Sports, wrote an article. What was like basically the doomsday scenario for the SEC is that all the contenders, so the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you got 7 SEC teams if I count it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I skipped one of them. My apologies to the great University of Texas A&M, where they're all 10-2. That creates an absolute doomsday scenario for the SEC because I think the Big 12's, or excuse me, the Big 10's going to shake itself out. I think Oregon's probably going undefeated. So, I mean, you could see 5 or 6 Big 10 teams right now, right? Like, if Ohio State beats Indiana, there's nothing to me that says Indiana doesn't deserve a playoff spot at 10-1 or whatever the schedule would be, or whatever it would be, because that's a damn good football team, and that coach is something else.
Yep.
So you really need some you need some movement. Like the Big 12 teams need to kind of fall off. I right now I only see a scenario where they only get one.
Most likely. I think they all play each other too.
BYU's at 9, Iowa State's at 17, Kansas State at 19, Colorado at 20. Yeah, I mean, I see the Big 12 falling off completely and only getting one team. Man, and this weekend is probably the biggest weekend in college football.
Yeah, I would agree. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait for them to be 16 teams in a couple of years.
Minimum.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Let's go to 64.
All right. Anything else, guys, before we get out of here?
That's all I got.
If you live in the state of Missouri, thank you for passing Amendment 2. And if you voted against it, I got another finger for you.
I almost said at the top of the show that we were going to stay completely just non-political except for one thing, and it was the betting, the Missouri betting. We almost made it.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you know what? These propositions aren't really political, but
that one's
Missouri did the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that one's fine. So
fine. That's
hopefully by August kickoff of sports adjacent.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get out of here, guys. Make sure to follow us on all the socials. Pod Ride the Pine. We also have the Substack, which is just Ride the Pine. Check that out. We haven't done much on it in quite a while, but I'm thinking that we will. I know I've got some stuff in the works. Adam, you might have something. Kenny, potentially, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it all out. But thanks for sticking with us, guys. Try and not doom scroll for the next 4 years. Cool. All right. Bye.